don't even need a gap. Just, it's just how it is in your classroom. As soon as you,
As soon as I look at them, it's inside.
as soon as it's supposed to
You give them a look, right?
That's right.
It's the glare.
Good evening. Time is 7:30. This is the City of Davis Human Relations Commission, and I am calling the meeting to order. We will get underway. Carrie, are we recording? We are.
We are recording.
Okay, thank you. We will get underway then with our roll call.
Chair Baker,
Here.
Vice Chair Gorman,
Here.
Commissioner Pickett. Here. Commissioner Wong Chen.
Here.
I'll note that we've got ex officio Michael Villalobos from UC Davis, Councilmember Partita, and staff Kelly Stockwitz and Carrie Dyer.
Thank you, Carrie. We now move on to approval of the agenda. The agenda is up on the screen for those who want to view it there. So it's been distributed to all members of the commission and is available for the public as well. The request then would be whether there are any changes that we need to make, or anyone would like to make to the agenda tonight.
I see that the times are outdated on the one that is on the screen at least. So
Thank you, Lainey.
with an understanding that every time is an hour later, I would like to move that the agenda be approved.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second because it's my fault for moving the meeting.
We're gonna get to you in a minute. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, and the motion carries unanimously. Thank you. We will then move forward with the rest of the agenda. We begin with brief announcements from staff, commissioners, and liaisons. If I may just assert the privilege of the chair, as a couple of announcements I wanted to make, and then hopefully we will hear from others as well. I just wanted to start, we don't have an agenda item today to discuss the Cesar Chavez Day celebration, but I wanted to just publicly recognize and thank Edgar and Connor and Carrie for their wonderful work arranging what would have been a very thoughtful and engaging and inclusive celebration, which we were unfortunately unable to go forward with as scheduled because of the weather on the 13th. But I did want to just acknowledge the great work that was done, and including some efforts to try to see if we could salvage some of that content in an online presentation. That didn't quite come together, but it was, regardless of the great work that was done to prepare. And I think we did have some lessons learned as a part of that, and I just wanted to publicly thank Edgar and Connor and Carrie for all that efforts that unfortunately nobody got to see this year. But we will be back. A couple other quick items. I noted a couple things coming up. May is Jewish American Heritage Month, which some of you may know is an annual recognition and celebration of the many achievements and contributions that American Jews have made in the United States. For about the last 20 years or so, there have been annual proclamations made by every president, and I think we are well served to keep that in mind. I know there's another particular day coming up, also on May 6th, Holocaust Remembrance Day. I'm not able to tell whether the City Council has issued any proclamations recognizing those observations, but if not, I'd like to suggest that I think they might be well received. that is it for the announcements I wanted to make. Let me just open it up and see if anybody else has others, Carrie, Gloria included.
I wanted to say that the Phoenix Coalition is working on Davis Pride, and last year the HRC had a table at that event. I don't know if we are planning, maybe that's a long range thing, to ask if they want to have a table.
We usually do have a table. I think I usually just send an email out to see who might be available and interested.
Okay. And so I had, the committee met earlier and they were asking if HRC would be there, also if Hate Free Together would be there, and I thought maybe they'd be at the same table. I don't know.
That would be great. Remind us, Gloria, that
June 1st.
June 1st, right? Okay, I think we definitely want to move ahead with that if folks are available, but let's find out as we move forward, and we do have one more meeting before that. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Yeah, just May 1st is May Day. There'll be a lot of like international solidarity done, and I believe there will be local actions as well as the entire month of May is also Asian Pacific American Heritage as well.
Okay, is there a place where people can?
I believe the library does a lot of stuff. I believe they have a whole list of like readings and activities that they usually do every year.
Yeah, thank you.
And I know this is also the start of UC Davis's cultural celebrations. Is that, have they started on that? I know there was like Black Family.
Well, powwow was the same day as Cedar Shabbos, and that got canceled due to weather as well.
Black Family and then Juneteenth will happen pretty much back to back.
Is that right? I thought it was in May, Black Family.
Yeah, I think they're going to be separated by a few days.
Okay, okay. And then there's like Asian Pacific Islander and the Chicano
Correct.
celebrations. They tend to like all be like back to back, right?
Yeah, and I'm more than happy to share with the commission all of those states.
Thank you. Others? Carrie, did you want to maybe mention the upcoming 12 Halloween?
Yes, thank you. On May 7th, we'll have a number of recognitions that evening. It will begin actually at 5:30. So it will be the Tong Hai Win Recognition Awards, the Golden Heart Awards, and the Environmental Awards, all happening at the same time at City Council, beginning at 5:30 on May 7th.
Great.
So it's an hour earlier than normal because we've got lots of awards being given out that night.
It's going to be a festive celebration, thank you. All right, any other announcements from commissioners, staff, or liaisons? All right, seeing none, let's move on then to public comment, item number 4. Just as a reminder, this is a place in the agenda where we hear from the public, take public comment on matters that are either not listed on the agenda or are on the consent calendar. The consent calendar today is only the proposed approval of the meeting minutes. But I want to open it up to any member of the public who would like to address the commission on for public comment on within that scope. This is a period that is limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Excuse me. We also allow for written comments. Carrie, have we received any written comments?
Not for tonight's meeting.
Okay. Well, with that then, let me open the floor. We do allow public comment also on the specific agenda items that are coming up in a bit, but this is public comment on items that are not on the agenda or listed on the consent calendar. Good evening.
Alan Hirsch, the Davis Lorax. tomorrow is Tree Day. Trees are people too, so we should squirrel that away. And of course, tomorrow's Friday, which means we have a Tree Day weekend.
Thank you for that. Mr. Hirsch? Anyone else then for public comment on item number 4?
Can I go next?
Good evening.
Okay. Nothing about us without us. That means no policy should be decided by any representative without the full and direct participation of members of the groups affected by that policy. I must express my disappointment with the Commission's recent recommendation concerning the, and I hope I say it correctly, Tong Hai Yoon Award. It is concerning that the award was given to an individual known for her involvement with extremist groups and negatively engaging with community members on social media. Furthermore, this individual has culturally appropriated a centuries-old Jewish tradition, the Hanukkah lighting, for political purposes, and has actively excluded mainstream Jewish community members from her event, clearly not representing their interests or values. This decision by the HLC raises question about the criteria for an award that is meant to honor diversity and community. The oversight of the American Jewish and Israeli Jewish communities in Davis, the oversight of the American Jewish and Israeli Jewish communities' concerns and needs at Davis has had severe consequences. Just last week, the Israeli flag that my family proudly displayed was on our front porch was stolen from our home for the second time within 1 week. It was stolen by an individual who trespassed our property. One of them was equipped with a weapon. This crime may or may not was related to another hate incident in which an Israeli flag was burned by a group of people in Davis. The commonality between the events, the burning of the flag, and events that are excluding the mainstream Jewish communities of Davis, is those events are alarming to us, and clearly should not be awarded, because they are not building bridges in our community. So, the actions of the Commission seem so far contradicting the very principle of acceptance and sensitivity outlined in its purpose resolution. And I would like to ask, especially regarding item 6A, how does the Commission plan to address and repair the divisions and hate that have surfaced in our community? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Would you like to identify yourself for the record or not?
No.
Okay, thank you. Very good. Anyone else?
Sure. My name is Leah Hibble. I'm a professor on campus. In 2022, white supremacists hung a banner over 113 calling the Holocaust an anti-white lie, both denying the Holocaust and suggesting Jews weaponize anti-Semitism as a part of an anti-white agenda. The mayor, council members, and the chancellor all called out this hate. During an ethnic studies advisory meeting, a member said to me, "Students only learn about the Holocaust because Jews are white and privileged," denying the fact that the core of the Holocaust was racialized hate against Jews and suggesting that Jews weaponize anti-Semitism as part of an anti-BIPOC agenda. No one in the meeting called it out. In another meeting, a member said, "I'm taken aback by this Jewish persistence," suggesting a nefarious Jewish agenda. No one called it out. In the very next door chamber, a self-identified Phoenix Coalition member said, "Jews can hide their Stars of David," a complete ahistorical and immoral suggestion that Jews can and should hide just to be safe. No one from the Phoenix Coalition called it out. On Saturday, on campus and through town as part of Picnic Day, pro-Palestinian protesters shouted, "Globalize the Intifada," a call for indiscriminate violence against Jews. No one has called it out. On top of this, there was a recent Title VI complaint that was submitted against UC Davis documenting pervasive, violent, anti-Semitic rhetoric on campus. No one has called it out. White supremacy is inherently anti-Semitic. We see it, we understand it, we call it out. Progressivism and ethnic studies are not inherently anti-Semitic, but anti-Semitism still exists in their ranks, and yet people in this town seem unable to see it, unable to understand it, and unable to call it out. Choosing to only selectively call out and combat hate undermines the integrity of both progressivism and ethnic studies. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jonathan Groveman. I work for U.S. Department of Agriculture here in Davis. So you mentioned Cesar Chavez Day, right? So I actually have the privilege of working with his granddaughter at my office, works for USDA. Someday you should bring her over to actually speak. She lives in Davis. But the reality is that Cesar Chavez's right-hand person as chief of staff, they were together for 50 years, is a Jewish guy, lives out of Sacramento, right? And we Jews have always been extremely good allies to communities, including LGBTQ communities. And I would say Davis shines when it comes to being allies with LGBTQ communities. There's been a lot of violence over the years, as we know, in Davis itself, and Jews have always been allies. This is a moment where we need you guys to be our ally. We're asking you, we're begging you. There's lawsuits asking for it. I mean, it's just pervasive asking for allies, right? We are allies with all sorts of communities, from Hispanic communities through LGBTQ communities. We desperately need you guys to be allies. The other thing is that, you know, not all Arabs are the same. Not all Catholics, not all Christians are the same. Not all Jews are the same as well. There is an element within Judaism called Jews for Jesus, Messianic Jews. They're not Jews. They're just not. And so the reality is that some of them end up using the Jewish title, but they're not representing us. And it sounds like, from what I understand, the word you're giving it to someone who is not actually a Jew, who is using that terminology for their own benefit. And then they're saying that they're building bridges, but they're actually not building bridges. And so we're here to say, we need you to be our allies, because, you know, my kid has received anti-Semitic text messages in the Davis school system. My other daughter received a death threat years ago for being Jewish. And we are not getting the same allies that we feel that we're giving to the other communities of Davis. So it's time to be our ally as well, like we've been an ally to LGBTQ and other communities within Davis. We need you.
Thank you for your comment.
Yeah.
I have a comment.
Sure, thank you.
Dan Abadia, some of you may know me. I'm listening to these incidents, and I think the question that we are all asking us is, how does this happen? How do people go onto someone's private property with a knife and chop a flag down and then burn it? I mean, how do people get to that point of division and hate and hatred? So I have been specifically focused on who is inciting people in Davis. Where is this information coming from? And certainly our group looks at social media and we see what people are watching. So I'd like to just say specifically about December 12th and the award you provided. That event that night included at least 5 groups that have participated in amplifying anti-Israel, anti-Zionist, and anti-Semitic. They're all different, but they can blend together. So I just would like to take a moment to describe those groups and what they've actually done in this town, okay? One of them is called Within Our Lifetime. This is essentially Students for Justice in Palestine that was renamed Within Our Lifetime in 2018 out of New York City. The Anti-Defamation League has described this group as anti-Zionist and anti-Israel. They essentially justified October 7th as legitimate. That's maybe, you consider that pro-terror type rhetoric. And they called for the total destruction of Israel and global intifada. That group was here in this building on December 12th. They were wearing black shirts. They're involved with mob violence and shutting down freeways and bridges globally. In fact, as recently as Monday, April 15th, across the United States. Another one is Jewish Voice for Peace. The Anti-Defamation League has said they are also anti-Zionist, and they have also used anti-Semitic rhetoric, including saying that Israelis drink the blood of Palestinians, which is a medieval anti-Semitic blood libel. They collaborate with other extremist groups in this town, including a protest in Central Park, where they called for the total destruction of the Jewish state. Another group is YOLO Justice for Palestine. This group collaborates with the other extremist groups in town. They have a protest in front of Mike Thompson's office on Tuesdays. At this protest, they had a shrine to a person named Aaron Bushnell, who wrote, "Israel is a white supremacist, ethno-nationalist, settler colonial apartheid state." He justified the October 7th Hamas attack before burning himself to death in front of the Israeli embassy. There is a shrine to this person in front of Mike Thompson's office, glorifying someone who did and said these things. Okay, this person, Aaron Bushnell, is being glorified by both the far right and the far left. Think how we feel, and then think, how does someone get so incited to hate the state of Israel and Jews that they would go and cut a flag down? Davis?
That's our 3 minute.
Okay, you got a 3 minute, okay. Well, the last one is Party for Socialism and Liberation. Okay, they had anti-Semitic material at the farmers market, basically saying Jews were Nazis, and that they collaborated with the Nazi party to form the state of Israel. And there are people on the HRC committee who know these people, who collaborate with them actively. How are we supposed to feel? These groups were here that evening, December 12th, and you just gave that person an award. It's really tough, really, really tough for us.
Thank you, Dan, for your comment.
I'd like to add, it's one thing to read about things like this on the news or to see them on social media, but when you review the doorbell camera of your front door and you see someone walking onto your property at 1 a.m. brandishing a large knife and cutting down your flag, and then you put another one back up and it gets torn down within a few days, and you experience these things in your own home. This isn't on your phone, this isn't reading about it, this is anti-Semitism on your front door. And it's here in this community, and this is what we're dealing with. The Davis Police Department has been very helpful. They are taking this very seriously. They are calling this what it is. This is a hate crime here in Davis at my front door. And I would like, to know what options and what can be done to make this community a safe place. This council has a principle of community, and I believe the main aspect right at the bottom there is that we maintain an accepting and sensitive community where everyone is free to live, learn, work without regard to race, ethnicity, gender, ability, sexual orientation, religion, political beliefs, age, length of stay, place, or residence, or among other differences among people. What has happened to us is making that hard to live. This is difficult for us, and one of the things we really loved about this city and why we bought a house here was the ability to feel safe in this community, and that has been severely tarnished. That's all.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'd like to speak next.
Yes, please.
This is my third time speaking to this commission. The first time was, I believe, December 14th, right after the resolution, in which we expressed, as members of the Jewish community, some different incidents that were beginning to happen in town with increasing frequency. We came back again in February, were misrepresented, some straight lies told about our presence on December 12th when we were asking that the city not adopt a resolution that would be divisive within the Davis community. Of course, we are not against peace. We are being portrayed as being against peace. We want our hostages to come home. But we actually had our we were trying to bring light to some of the anti-Semitism that was growing in February, even more so. We had numerous members of the activist community what appeared to be trying to diminish the impact of what we were asking, what we were talking about. And since then, I would like to know what the HRC has done, what the Davis City Council has done, because all that I saw was this award, rewarding someone. She was actually ahead of me in line at the open comment, at the public comment on December 12th. She was jeering at speakers from the Israeli community as they spoke about something very, very difficult and very close to home. Many of us were still reeling from the horrible acts of barbarism on October 7th, and she was incredibly rude in response. And this is the person that you rewarded. I would like to ask, in light of the flag flashing, incredibly terrifying to have a baby at home and wonder if people will not just start looking for Israeli flags, but start looking for a mezuzah. I don't know if you guys know what that is. It's a very important Jewish symbol, and we should probably learn about it. We're required or encouraged to put it on our doorposts. Very, very important, and it marks us as Jews. Right? Even when you leave your home, you're not supposed to take it down. It's a very important symbol of God's protection. But if someone starts looking for that, are we in danger? Right? We've been bringing your guys' attention to this over and over. The attacks are starting to become personal. Right? And we don't know where it goes next. We see all these different protests coming up at all the different college campuses around the US. We see synagogues burning down. There was a woman in France who was raped and kidnapped. I don't know how personal or how violent the anti-Semitic attacks need to get for this city to take it seriously. We keep coming to you and telling us that we are alarmed and we are facing this daily. I've had people cuss at me. I've had people say, because I was standing next to someone holding an Israeli flag, that they wish we would just get the fuck out of town, right? This is happening daily to the members of our community. Most of them are not coming because they do not want to be identified in public. They are terrified, okay? I am terrified, as you can see. So my ask to the council or the commission are this. I would like you to reach out to Hate Free Davis and the Countering Anti-Semitism Committee from the synagogue for training and resources to learn about anti-Semitism and the tropes so that you can identify yourselves when you hear them. I would like to encourage you to bring this training and these resources to the Davis City Council to do the same. I encourage you to bring the resolution. A number of members of our community brought it to the Davis City Council. It sounds like you're interested in adopting the resolution for the Jewish American Heritage Month. I'm almost done. I encourage you to work with Davis City Council to put in place a plan to address the rise in the hateful rhetoric and the harassment and the hate crimes that are growing in Davis. I really hope that it'll be before we have an encampment in our town, close to downtown. I hope that you will personally stand firm against hate, no matter who it is targeted at, and speak out. Put yourselves on the line, just as we would for you, just as many of the members of our community have fought for many other civil rights for other marginalized communities. And now we find ourselves alone. And my last ask is to encourage the 2x2 meetings between the various groups, the Davis City Council, DJSC, and UC Davis, to include anti-Semitism as a standing agenda item until the crisis of Jew hate has passed. I have some information to share as well about what the term intifada means, and I can email it to you. It's very important that you understand the words that you're hearing when they're being said on the streets of downtown Davis at Pick and Place parade. It's terrifying. My cousin lost his classmate when he was in kindergarten. His entire family, his grandmother, all of his cousins, his parents, everyone was wiped out in a bus bombing on the way to the beach. When I hear intifada, it has a meaning. You need to know what it means when people are saying that they want to globalize that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Thanks for being here. Are there others? We're on item number 4, public comment. I know we had a couple of new folks join. I just wanted to let you know where we are on the agenda. Okay. I want to give just another moment, but if there is no further public comment, we will shortly close this agenda item. And express appreciation again to everyone who came to share their thoughts and concerns. It is appreciated. Okay. If seeing no further public comment, then we will close this item and move on to item number 5, the consent calendar, where the one item is review and approval of the meeting minutes from the last meeting in March. Has everyone had a chance to review the meeting minutes? Any changes, revisions, etc.? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to approve.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Second, Ms. Laney. Any other comment? All those then in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, none. Motion carries unanimously, and the minutes are approved. Okay, we are then on to our regular agenda item number 6. The first item is 6A, public forum on recent hate incidents in the Davis community. Obviously, a good deal of the public comment that we have heard so far touches on this issue, but this is a standing item on the agenda for the commission to discuss, and I want to open it up to the members of the commission, and of course there would be an opportunity for the public to comment before we close on this item as well.
I have 2 items that haven't been mentioned yet. The first is that on the back of a building at H and 3rd Street, I don't know exactly what that building is. I believe the exact words are Zionism is equals white supremacy, end the settler colony from the river to the sea. And so that was a huge graffiti that happened this week. And then I believe at Shields Library, you might know more than I do, there was like Death to Israel spray painted. I don't know any more about it than that. I don't know what responses have been from the city yet or from the university, but I know those 2 things happened.
Thank you for sharing that, Laney. Yeah, other items to discussion, either anything we've heard or anything new that people wanna share?
I don't know if that graffiti is the same one that, I think was reported. But that was an incident that I was going to mention. I think everybody here is aware of the flag, cutting down. And, I don't know about other instances, but I think that a while back on Nextdoor also there was, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago, there was I think it was at an apartment complex, there was a black person who had gone to his mailbox and was harassed by someone there saying, what were they doing there, sort of questioning, and that was reported to the police as well.
Yeah, so ongoing tensions. Micah, do you have any information about the university situation?
So when those are usually discovered, they're reported to the police department and also the Harassment and Discrimination Assistance Prevention Program. And common practice is to get those removed immediately.
Right. Okay.
And I think it was also, I think Hate Free Together made a post about these incidents as well.
Yeah, one of the challenges, particularly with the graffiti, as an example, when people post it to social media but haven't actually made any kind of police report, the quickest way for us to deal with the city to deal with it and get rid of it and try to investigate it is for somebody to report to the police what happened. So we're really encouraging people who see something that doesn't look right, if you see something that is obviously wrong, don't just post it, but call in a report so that we can get to it and fix it.
So the police department is the responding agency when
For something in the city, yeah, and for
graffiti or
for the campus.
or the situation where people's flags or other
Correct.
emblems
And there's multiple approaches to responding. First is to, something like the graffiti, get rid of it. And then there's the investigation piece of trying to figure out who did it and, apprehend that person or persons. The sooner that our police department can have confirmation or information that something is out there that's happening, the better they can be able to respond. So, and we're not always on the same social media sites that other people might be on, so.
And the police department, I believe, has a pretty prominent link for reporting hate crimes, as does the university. And I think it's really important for people to report as often as that happens, because the police are watching for trends, right? And I know that, I've heard here and in other places that people have, had people yell at them or harass them. And all of those are hate incidents. They may not be hate crimes, but if all of those are reported, then we can we have a better sense.
Right. I do think this is a subject that we need to discuss further. We had planned to have a representative from Hate Free Together on our agenda tonight because of scheduling issues. That discussion has been postponed to our next meeting, but I think that is absolutely something that is worthy of further discussion, and I know that the members of the commission are very interested in exploring how we can work together with Hate Free Together, which has jurisdiction both in the city and in the university, the school district, as well as the county, and because we know that these problems aren't limited, but that there is great pain, as we heard tonight. There is fear, there is anxiety, and I think we all want to live in a community where people feel safe and are, in fact, safe. So I know that this is an issue that we want to take up with Hate Free Together, so that we can understand the work that they're doing, and we have heard recommendations that have been provided to us tonight and at prior meetings. I think we want to pursue those suggestions and work towards the most sort of comprehensive, responsive solution that we can take in coordination with our colleagues at Hate Free Together, so that we're not recreating the wheel or spinning our wheels or working at cross purposes. So I very much look forward to having that conversation with Hate Free Together. I know my colleagues do as well.
I have a comment.
Yes, let's maybe then open it up for public comment if there are no further comments from commissioners.
Two more things. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to say first, thank you for coming and thank you for speaking. I think this just brings me back in the beginning of COVID when there was a lot of anti-Asian hate that was happening in the community. And the first thing we were trying to do was figure out, like, how do we just get education out to the resources to the people that need them? I feel like we're kind of coming back again to that kind of same reflection point of like education. How do we get education into the community? Because the hope is that with education, people can be more open-minded. People can dispel a lot of the hatred or the anger that may be in the community, and to have more just discussions between the different groups, right? I think we're in a very interesting and tense time. My fear it's going to get escalated even more. The way that things are happening, it's something that I think this commission should take on in a more serious way, and I'm not sure how that would look, whether it's through the avenue of Hate Free Together, if it's with ourselves, with our own subcommittee. Last time we formed an anti-hate subcommittee that first started as an anti-Asian hate subcommittee that looked just at targeted crimes and statistics. And so, I think it's time that we kind of start looking at what are our options and, what should we do within the community to at least help alleviate the fear that's out there. It's not going to be a one-shot answer, obviously, but I think something in the direction of resources and education is a practical first step.
Yeah, thank you, Edgar. I know you have a lot of experience with this, unfortunately, and it's going to be a great asset, I think, as we continue these conversations. Amy, I think you mentioned.
Yeah, I've got two unrelated things, and I'm thinking the first one maybe is better suited for, because part of the problem with our inability to respond is related to the restructuring of the commissions and the addition of Hate Free Together, and it's sort of being unclear what purviews are, so I'm hoping that we get some clarity in the next discussion item, so I think I'll say what I was gonna say there. But the other thing I will note, I'm not sure how much is public knowledge, but I think it's fine to say, as a liaison to the schools, that we did have a teacher in the schools who used the N-word in front of students twice. Students told the office, I think afterwards, when this person saw the response of students, they took the black students that were in the class and took them outside and told them, I wasn't trying to be racist, right? You could imagine made things worse and not better. And so anyway, students went to the administration immediately put the teacher on administrative leave, and there's been a proceeding investigation at the level of the school district, and it's not resolved yet, but if we're reporting hate incidents, then
Yeah, I appreciate that.
that'd be known.
There have been a number of incidents similar nature that you have relayed, and it's always helpful for us to be aware of what is happening in school systems, even if they might be isolated or part of the same type of problem. Yeah, it is getting a bit Norman here, right?
Here, why don't we,
I don't know, we might be able
that
to
would be
crack.
interesting here.
Oh,
We don't crack open that door or
And
no?
also crack open the door.
Want me to crack it?
Yeah, that'd be good.
City staff is on the job as usual.
I hope that doesn't blow, crash it, maybe.
Yeah, I really wish Hate Free Together was here because I feel like this is completely within their purview, right? Because they have the arm of the county, the university, and the city. There are some resources, I wouldn't say abundant resources. They have line item resources that are specifically targeted certain ways. But I think if we can begin that discussion, and that could also kind of help cement our relationship between the HRC and Hate Free Together. I feel like this is a better time than none to do that.
Yeah, and I think that, they're, one of their pillars is education and also outreach to the community. And I know that they have, as you mentioned, some resources around that, and I know that that is, part of their conversations around, how they can do that so that it's effective and so that people feel like there is something that's being done. And so that they feel that they're being heard, so that the community is being heard. That is sort of their, the whole reason that they have been formed, right? So that when these incidents happen, there's a response. And I hear what people are saying, that people are afraid and that people are feeling like they are, that nothing is being done. And I know that the council has put out a couple of statements in response to, some of the things that have been going on around the anti-Semitism. And it's not, obviously, it's not enough. It's not gonna, make people feel safe. The most that it can do is make people, feel seen. And I know that I've had, a lot of conversations with folks around what would make people feel safe, right? Like what is it? What is it that you need? The saying of the words is very important, but being a person of color and also, having family members who have been targets, and as you mentioned with the Asian hate that was happening, I think we know what those experiences are like. And there is, and even when you do have the support and you know that there are people in the community that are supporting you, I know what that's like to walk through the world and know that there are people that don't want you in this community, right? And that's sadly a reality of any community that you're going to live in as a person who is on the margins.
Yeah, just on that point, I wanted to just make sure that everyone is also clear. The reason that, one of the reasons I think that we believe it's so important that there be dialogue and coordination with Hate Free Together is that the members of the commission, these 4 people that are around the table tonight, are all volunteers, and there's no city staff that is, that we are able to deploy to work on these issues. We're a group of sort of volunteers who are members of the communities just like you are, who care but don't have resources at our disposal to put towards an issue, and that's why the resources I think that Edgar and Gloria were referring to with respect to Hate Free Together, I think are going to be part of the solution here. And I see that there are a couple public comment, and then Kelly, would you want to do?
I wanted to address something that Commissioner Pickett said and that you just mentioned as well. That might, I was going to save it for later, but I think it might be relevant now. To your point of the commission as a citizen volunteer group, one of the things I think is important to remember is that when we have these meetings and staff is diligently taking the minutes and taking notes, that information that's shared here, whether it's part of public comment or discussion amongst commissioners, is then shared with our other city staff who do have certain resources at their disposal, for example, the police department or our staff who work on Hate Free Together. And when they see and hear information that comes out of a commission like this where there are issues and concerns raised, they are working to try to address them as a city response. Council has directed them to do that as best as they can. So for the police department, for example, I know they've been working on a number of different community meeting opportunities and trying to work on some specific solutions from a public safety standpoint. I know that Hate Free Together is trying to, again, push information out about what to see, what to do, in case you see or hear something or are a victim of a hate crime or a hate incident, what to, education, to your point about, you know, what are the issues that are being talked about. So I don't want people to think that when you come and you speak, or the commission to feel that when you're having this discussion, that that's it, we move on to the next agenda item and we're good. We're taking this all back and making it part of the city response.
Very important, thank you, John, for sharing.
There isn't a better agenda moment that I can see to say this, but I wanted to take a moment because it relates to the most of the public comment that was here tonight. I wonder if it is reasonable for the task force that decided the Town Highway awards to, at a later time when we've had a chance to formulate our thoughts a little bit, create a response, or what I'm picturing more is an explanation of just some of the factors that go into making the decisions, just to explain a little bit more. So I don't know if we're able to meet again as a subcommittee now that the decisions have been made, or what the process is for that. We guess out there for consideration.
Lainey, we could put it on the long-range calendar. Were you hoping to reconvene the subcommittee?
I think it would be a brief meeting of the subcommittee to just document some of the deciding factors. We have a very brief, right, in our description of the awards, we have a very brief summary of what we're looking for. But
yeah, the subcommittee's been ended, but.
And the award's been approved by the city council.
Right, so I think that it would be good to put on the long range, because it was something that was on my mind, because I was on the HRC, and in the history of awards, there's always been, you know, some tension around an awardee, and it comes up, and I think that, you know, maybe taking a look at the way that those decisions are made and having, you know, just a conversation around how that is done is probably a good thing, because I've certainly sat in meetings where we're choosing folks and had some very, you know, lively conversations.
Lainey, is that something that would work for you to put on long range and have a full commission discussion about process review?
Okay, I want to try to wrap this up fairly quickly. We've got, just started our agenda, we're about halfway through. The time is now about 8:25. I want to be respectful of the people who have come and allow you to make further comment. I do want to kind of be mindful of the time, because I know it's getting a bit later. There were a number of folks, Dan, I'm sorry, John, thank you, and I didn't get your name, but unidentified. So let's go sort of around it if we can, starting with Dan.
Appreciate the comments, we'll try and keep it brief. So as a general thought exercise, imagine if the flag that was cut down with a knife at 1 a.m. on private property was a pride flag. Just, that's how easy it is, right? It shouldn't be complicated, and it's just the double standard and the silence around what we're dealing with is what we're talking about. And then imagine in the horrible incident you mentioned at school, imagine if someone told the kids, you know what, you're overreacting. Actually, here's how we define racism. Like, your feelings actually don't matter. So it's a thought exercise. It's kind of important for us to see a consistency. And then regarding this commission, certainly you had time to give an award to this person, and somehow you got the name of the person, somehow you got a rather select interpretation of what this person's role was in the community, and other members of the community were not spoken to, right? So there's many people in the Jewish community. Certainly many of us are busy working and living, and so we're just simply not included. So we're talking about a very small subsection of people making these decisions. So you have time to do an award, and yet it seems incredibly hard to just simply make a statement, which is acknowledging what's going on, looking at who's doing it, and condemning it. We can't silence, I mean, free speech, we all believe in free speech. So that's just a few perspectives. The double standard, and then it really shouldn't be that hard. It should be really easy. You have a full agenda, and in the last 5 months, the problem has just gotten worse, and we've just heard silence.
I just want to also echo that. It's so great to hear when there is decisive action. A horrible hate incident that was acknowledged and responded to. I have lists and lists of very similar situations in the schools perpetrated by teachers as well against our Jewish students. Your child had a death threat. My child had a death threat. Teachers that are saying anti-Semitic things, there's no response. Again, it's wonderful to hear when there can be a response, to see, to acknowledge this horrific uptick in anti-Asian hate, and to come together to form a subcommittee and respond. So when we have the will, we do something. We're waiting for that will.
So I think you heard tonight that maybe your award selection was a little maybe premature, right? And it also sounds like you still have a little bit of time to debate it, right? So in my job, I deal with media affairs all day. SACB, San Francisco Chronicle, New York Times, every outlet, right? So in my job, and I go back all the way to being a military public affairs officer, worked with all the reporters, know them pretty well. I also work in legislative affairs, so I work with the Thompsons every day, I work with the Garamendis every day. So it sounds like you guys have a little bit of time to reconsider the decision. So hopefully you guys make the right decision. And I'll pass it on.
I'm just going to say that I brought flyers that are about anti-Semitism, so that people on this commission can take one and learn a little bit about what anti-Semitism is.
Great, thank you. Alan, I don't want to overlook you.
Thank you very much. I've been gratified this commission is taking an anti-Semitism. It's very important. I came to you about 2.5 years ago. I was quite concerned about all the anti-Semitism pumped into this community by Fox News and Trump and the Republican administration, and it fell on total deaf ears. We had Tucker Carlson pumping in replacement. So thank you for taking this. It's really important. I'm concerned that we're depending too much on the government to cure a community problem. I think after 9/11, we saw how the Muslim community, how this community came together to protect the Muslim community, so against the hate and the Islamophobia. We saw the birth of the celebration of Abraham and whatnot, and that's interfaith efforts are ways of understanding and building bridges, and I encourage the people here to get involved with them. There's a system of Salam Salam, there's a Baptist Peace Celebration of Abraham. I think there's lots of opportunities. I think reaching out is a way of understanding and building some bridges. I think that'd be a positive self-help step versus expecting the government again to step in. The government, the city staff, I know is so stretched, and there's only so much, and top-down stuff doesn't work very well. I'm very concerned to hear about children getting death threats. I'm also concerned about an escalation by the government. My child was at Columbia University, and she says that basically the biggest fear on campus is for all the people walking around with guns, the police. Yeah, there's chaos outside the gate again, so I hear there are incidents, but she reported, she's not a protester, she's not, but she wants to graduate. She says, it's chill. That's the message, chill. There are obviously exceptions, but you chill. So that's what I hear, and that's what I hear from firsthand, and the stuff about sending the National Guard is an accelerant. So the role of the government is really touchy, and it's an accelerant. I think we need to take care of ourselves as a community and come together where we can and build bridges. I think that's exactly right. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Then I think we're going to unidentified.
Thanks. I'm going, so you posed the question of what would make certain community members to feel safer. I would like to answer in a slightly different manner. What was the moment that they didn't feel safe anymore at Davis? That was the night that the City Council passed the resolution, the ceasefire resolution. That was the night that marks to me the join to a wave that is fueled by organizations that support terror organization instead of critical thinking. And although we waived all of the flags to tell you that this resolution will have a negative effect on our community, the City Council decided to pass it anyhow. And although many other cities in the Bay Area that were more exciting things happened there, decided not to pass this resolution at the same time. So that definitely marked a huge turn point for me as a city resident, and just a feeling of ignorance. And Lini, I would like to thank you for looking again on your choice and listing what were the criteria and why did you choose that that person to be rewarded. I would like, if it's okay, to criticize it. Are you looking on it in a holistic manner? Are you looking on that choice, not just the good that they might bring, and I don't question that, but also the bad that they brought to the community? Will that be listed there as well? I guess not, but I would like you to consider this time, emphasize echoing what he said, or at least for next time, an holistic view of the personalities that you are considering to be rewarded by, or recommended for a reward. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it is. Did you have a comment as well?
Yeah, I wanted to just kind of add on to what everyone's saying and also acknowledge you guys for putting this on the agenda. I really appreciate that it is, getting the light of day and being acknowledged. I also want to respond to something that Gloria expressed now 2 times, one time in a private meeting, and it's the idea that there are kind of bad people out there. And when you're part of a minority group, you're sometimes targeted by hateful people. And the problem that we're facing in this town is that not largely from white supremacists, at least that's not who I'm scared of right now. I don't run into them day to day. They're not on my Facebook friends. They are not, they're not on the commissions, right? The people that I'm worried about are the people who are looking at an event, those tokenizing people who are demonizing the country that my family is from and the safe place that I will go, if I need to get out of this country. It is the first time in history that we have a place to go. Right? We've had pogroms. The Holocaust is just one example, right? We know the wave of anti-Semitism where we get demonized and we get scapegoated and we get vilified for whatever the ill du jour is in society. We need to have that one safe place. We can absolutely talk about getting, better policies in place. We can criticize the military actions. We can criticize the prime minister. Most Israelis you meet will be actively on board with all of those things. But to say that there was an event on Hanukkah that used, like Leah said, that used menorah lighting, it's not a demonstration for the public, right? This is a holy act that we say a specific prayer. And that night, he had people who we had seen the week before boycotting Starbucks, holding signs that said, by any means necessary, or justification by any means, I believe it was. And we understand that to be rape and beheadings and burning babies, right? This is targeting civilians. That is what intifada means, and that is what by any means necessary means, right? Terrorism, what is it? Anyway, so I just wanted to make it clear that I know that you are all well-meaning people. You all care deeply about the issues that are affecting our town, about prejudice, about fighting discrimination. That's why you're here. You've all done amazing things. I also suggest that you similar as the Black Lives Matter movement, that we all learn, we all look a little harder at our own biases, our own shortcomings and blind spots. I highly recommend that you include someone from the Jewish community, either on the commission or that you meet with regularly. If you have someone who is a part of the mainstream thought, right? So the issue with who you chose, with Annie, she is a part of the fringe feeling of demonizing Israel, and the idea that you consider her to be building bridges simply because of the fact that she's Jewish and married to a Palestinian man. The event that they did not build bridges between the communities. It built bridges within different religions. I mean, it's not relevant to the issue at hand. We were talking about creating a ceasefire resolution that did not take into account that Hamas has turned down so many opportunities for a ceasefire because they refuse to release the hostages, including many women still, that are being used as sex slaves. I mean, it's just absurd. The thought that the resolution would be a positive movement for this town. But that aside, I think that you guys just need to please consider that the things that you're doing, even the interfaith event that they held in downtown,
I'm going to ask you to try to wrap it up.
Yeah, I'm going to wrap it up. I'm sorry, I'm also really tired. But they included a quote from a poet who had made jokes about burning babies, right? He said, after October 7th, he asked if they used baking soda or not, right? So this is an event that you guys looked at as a sign of building bridges within the community, and we saw it as another sign of being marginalized, right? So that's my message. Just take a deeper look. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I think we have heard from you. I want to leave a moment for anybody else who has not yet had a chance to speak.
Thank you, Edgar, for offering some practical action items.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it. And thank you all for being here. I think you have been heard. I hope you feel like you have been heard. We have tried to listen closely. I appreciate you being here on a Thursday night, late in the day.
Good night, how'd you say?
Thank you.
One of the reasons I joined the commission was because of some tensions in the community. And I just want to emphasize there are openings on the commissions.
We've been applying, by the way. We have multiple members.
All right, good.
Thank
We will wait to
Thank you.
see who's selected then.
Okay, that's item 6A. We have now concluded
Kevin, can you give me just 1 second here?
Okay.
Thanks, sorry, I
You'd like,
just need to make a change on my minutes.
That was here. Also remember, you're not powerless. You say you're powerless, you're not powerless.
Make a statement.
Yeah. You have 2 days inside.
thank you, Carrie. Okay, we are now moving on after that extended conversation to item 6B. This is the council subcommittee proposed scope of human relations. We have with us tonight city staff, Kelly Stackowitz. Kelly, you are assistant city manager, I believe. Okay, and Kelly has been working very closely with the city council subcommittee, looking at the scope of the various commissions, including the Human Relations Commission, and is here to brief us on where
What they're doing.
their thoughts might be.
So thank you. The city council appointed a subcommittee of Mayor Josh Chapman and Vice Mayor Bapu Vaita last year. And the charge was to look at all the commissions. So they've been doing that. And at the end of January, they brought forward to the full council some initial recommendations and proposals for the council to discuss. And council gave some preliminary or initial direction, and the subcommittee has been considering that direction and doing some additional research and work, including some visits to all the commissions to kind of share their the proposals as they are right now. Unfortunately for tonight, neither Mayor Chapman or Vice Mayor Vaitla could be at this meeting, so I will do my best to stand in for them and answer any questions you have. I'll try to channel whatever inner mayor and vice mayor I might have. So in your packet, you have a short memo from the subcommittee and some proposed revisions to this particular commission's scope. When the subcommittee originally went to the council, their initial proposal was to consider merging the Civic Arts Commission and the Human Relations Commission. Well, just leave it at that. That was their initial proposal. The feedback that they got from the full council was
And now it's cold.
sorry, Dora.
I like this temperature. Yeah.
From the full council was to reconsider or to think of options other than a merger of the two commissions. So the subcommittee has been thinking of different options, and while I haven't brought the full set of options back to the council for additional discussion, where they are definitely now is no merger, and really no specific changes to the HRC, but more so some proposed changes potentially to the Civic Arts Commission. So with that, what we have maybe up on the screen.
Yeah.
Do you want the functions?
Yeah.
There you go.
So
Okay.
what we are looking for, we being the subcommittee and staff working with them, is any feedback or input from the commission in terms of what they're proposing. So what they're proposing is a couple things. One, they want every commission to have a very clear, succinct purpose that's stated, that, you know, the very short elevator ride speech of what is it that the commission does. So that purpose here for this commission is proposed as promote mutual respect, understanding, justice, and advancement of the human rights of all people. And also, let me get through and then we can come back and have a conversation on it. And then one of their second objectives is to simplify the functions of each commission, trying to get it down to a couple of bullet points. Some of those bullet points may be long. One of the concerns that they've had, and one of the things that they've been trying to consider is ensuring that if somebody who is otherwise not involved in city government, doesn't attend every council meeting or speak at every public comment, if they have an issue that they want to raise, whatever it's about, that they can very easily look at our list of commissions and pick the one that they're supposed to go to based on whatever that issue is. They also want to make it clear, what each commission is charged with doing for the commissioners as well. So they have 3 proposed, I'll call them bullets, or 3 proposed functions. They're up here on the screen, you have it in your packet. The first one, I'm not going to read them, but the first one is really focusing on discussions, recommendations, issues surrounding promoting equity and refuting or decrying discrimination of whatever, of any type. And that the actions that could be included in that are somewhat of what we just did, gathering some information, hearing from community members, making recommendations to the council that you feel would be fostering diversity and equity and decrying discrimination. And the second one is really more of the public outreach and engagement, the events and activities that this commission has been, over the years, charged with making sure happen. So our annual Martin Luther King event is a good example. If this commission didn't assist with that, help with that, run that, we either wouldn't have it or it would look very, very different. So that's the second one, tries to encompass all of those sorts of public engagement kinds of activities. And then the third one is talking about Hate Free Together, having this be the public conduit for Hate Free Together. And Hate Free Together, we use the word initiative because it really is an initiative. It is trying to make sure that we've got open lines of communication for community members in all parts of the community, whether it's the university community, the K-12 community, or the otherwise non-affiliated community, to come and express concerns or receive different kinds of education. And then for those entities, city, university, school district, to be able to communicate what they're seeing, what they're hearing, and jointly provide similar messaging and reinforcing of messaging across all the jurisdictions. So it's not one particular program as much as it is an umbrella initiative to try to weave together all of the work that's going on campus, on other kinds of campuses, and then throughout the rest of the community. So those are the 3 functions that they've proposed, and then I'll wrap up by this particular commission has one slightly different recommendation than other commissions. This commission has a fairly long list of ex officio members that have evolved over the years. There's UCD and DJUSD, both administrative representatives who are ex officios, like Michael, and then there are student representatives that we've had sometimes success and sometimes not success in trying to recruit. That's been a little bit more of a challenge from both those jurisdictions. But then there's also an interfaith representative, which has always been a little tricky because there is no one organization to put forward an interfaith representative. And how do you represent, I think the discussion we just had, how do you represent all the faiths? So we're proposing that we not have an interfaith ex officio because there is no way to officially appoint someone. There's no way to officially appoint somebody as an ex officio to represent what that is. Anybody is of course welcome and encouraged to send representatives or attend every meeting or participate otherwise. And then the other one that is still, I think, lingering in the authorizing resolution would be a police department ex officio representative, which I don't think we've had for quite a while. And since the creation of the Police Accountability Commission, those sort of police-related conversations have moved to that commission. So, have I forgotten anything, Gloria? Okay, so with that, I'll stop, answer any questions best I can, and if there's any input or feedback, good, bad, or ugly, I have a pen.
Just off the top of my head, for the high school student in ASUCD, the only suggestion that I would say is don't say ASUCD, just say a UCD student, because you're eliminating grad students by saying ASUCD. And I feel like for longevity, grad students may actually be able to serve longer, and it might be easier to recruit a grad student. But if you limit it just to ASUCD, that means the ASUCD president has to appoint them as well. And so that was the only challenge, was that the only reason we had an ASUCD student in the past was because I had to set up a meeting with the president and then say, hey, can you appoint somebody? So unless we always have that constant relationship with ASUCD, that's a barrier. So I'd rather just like leave an open spot for UCD, or if you're gonna say ASUCD/GSA. But again, that means someone still has to appoint them. That means they would have to be approved by a higher being. I don't know if that's necessary. A higher authority, you know, like, because it was odd, like the person that joined us before, I forgot his name, he was so nice. You know, he didn't know anything about the commission, or didn't, I mean, I hate to say that, but there was very minimal experience on the issues. And at that time, ASUCD had very minimal students even participating in ASUCD because it just came back from COVID. And so, you know, I feel like there's a lot of other students who are experts in this field.
Sure, that's a good
in
point.
different areas. So just leaving it more open, and that recruitment process a little bit more open gives us that flexibility. I don't know if Michael has an opinion or.
Well, it all depends. I mean, if you
Yeah.
want it appointed by those formal bodies, ASUCD, GSA, so you do your recruitment through ASUCD, ASUCD and GSA, but you miss a majority of the student population by just targeting those two groups.
Yeah.
Because those are formal groups. And so I think it may make sense that you may include other student centers, for example, to entertain potential representatives that are coming from UC Davis. I don't think if that's the desire is for a UC Davis student, I would just put UC Davis student.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm also in favor of it just being broadly a UC Davis student. I think before there was even questions about like, could it be a grad student if ASUCD still was the one appointing them or not? So it's just like, have it just be a student. There is a question though of how is that student chosen if somehow multiple students wanted it, which would be a nice problem to have. But nonetheless, it is theoretically possible. And I do agree that involving the centers like CCC and LGBTQIARC and whatnot would definitely be relevant to this commission. But yeah, there's definitely a question of like officially, how is this person chosen?
I've actually recruited directly from students in the SCC. I had one almost ready to commit.
Lainey?
All looks good, all looks clear, I like it. My question or something about point number 2 of the captions, where it says support as appropriate community forums. When I read that before this meeting, I thought that I read it differently than running the MLK and the Cesar Chavez events, for example, which is kind of fine if this is supposed to be public facing and sort of more general. But I read it as something different than that, supporting other community forums that maybe different groups might propose that we ought to attend and be part of. Or I wondered if the word support wasn't correct exactly, and it might be initiate as appropriate community forums and activities to prevent and address discrimination. And I honestly don't know what's within our purview and what's not in terms of are we as a body, and I'm still fairly new to this, able to initiate actual community forums on our own, or does that process go through the city council? So I just wondered if a little more clarity there could be useful. Again, if it's not our guiding document and it's just to be public facing, then I think whatever you think makes sense is fine,
But I think you bring up a good point, because if you say the word support versus initiate or facilitate,
Or conduct.
or conduct.
it's more of like supporting just means someone else is doing it, we're just
We
gonna
show
say,
up, yeah.
hello, versus like, we're actually spearheading.
Mhm.
So I think
Which one do you want?
the terminology is actually important between those two, either initiate or facilitate. Because in many instances, we are facilitating the events and not just supporting.
So, I think that's a really good point. You know, with something like, this clarifies it, but it does provide more flexibility, support or facilitate as appropriate events, community forums and activities. I added events because some of the things I guess would be more events than community forums,
Yeah.
but I don't wanna limit it to that. Sometimes you guys do facilitate, it wouldn't happen without you. And other times you are joining in with, you know, another group that is the primary host. Both are important, both are appropriate.
I mean, another way of just making it broad that includes forums and activities is just say community engagement, which takes many forms.
To support or facilitate as appropriate, community
engagements.
engagement. We don't think of that.
Nice and overarching.
I'd like to suggest that conduct is there somewhere. I think it's actually part of the statutory term too, for what that's worth, and I wanna just maybe touch on that a little bit more in a minute, but if we refer to the government code provisions, they direct us to hold conferences and other public meetings and to conduct as well as recommend educational programs.
Educational programs.
Do you like the phrasing educational programs? Do you like community engagement? Do you like listing them all out? You can make a big long list. No, do you have any thoughts or preferences, or do you want to leave that to?
If it only said educational programs, that would be different than what it says there, I feel like. Educational programs is some of what we do, but.
No, there was more to it. Part of it was the educational programs, the other part was holding conferences and other public meetings. And let's see, was there anything else? I think those are the statutory terms.
Conduct and support as appropriate community forums and educational activities. I think just adding a couple extra words kind of gives it a little bit more clarity.
What is the difference, in your view, between conduct and facilitate?
Kevin likes conduct better and I like Kevin's. That's my view.
To my mind, facilitate is to promote and foster and ease and help along, but it's not, I think, what we do, for example, with respect to the Cesar Chavez Day or the MLK. I think those are events that HRC is.
So conduct being more action oriented and.
We're kind of holding.
Yeah, not kind of, you are.
That's how it seems to me.
Seems right.
So support or conduct as appropriate community forums and educational activities. Is that getting there?
That works for me.
Okay.
You were a really nice attorney, huh?
And then, the, conferences, is that word important to you? Or does that, are community forums conferences?
Well,
or educational activities for that
if
matter?
I'm chiming in here, I mean, I really think
you are.
it is, it behooves us to try to track the statutory framework that municipal HRCs operate under as provided in the government code. And I don't think we're free to depart from that as long as the city believes that there should be a human relations commission, because the state has said cities are authorized to create human relations commissions, and if they do, here are their responsibilities. So to me, that seems like a menu that we just inherit. And I don't know that we need to try to paraphrase it or, whatever. So for ease, I would suggest that since the statutory construct is there, that we
try to mirror that.
Try to mirror.
Sorry. I'm interested in what it means to serve as the lead commission regarding the city's community engagement component of the Hate Free Together initiative. I think that sounds good and right, but I'm just like wondering, and I don't need
What
that
does that
answer
mean?
now, but like, yeah, is somebody supposed to show up somewhere, or, like where
No,
does
it's a
that
perfect
rubber hit the
question.
road?
Parks and Recs isn't gonna go and, they won't be the lead commission right there.
Well, I guess I look at it as a public-facing front door for the city. So if someone in the community has an issue that they'd like to bring forward that falls under that Hate Free Together umbrella, this would be a place for that.
Okay.
Versus just sending an email or, something else that's not an in-person place.
Or the conduit, sort of.
Yeah.
Just ask a question about that at the risk of being called a lawyer again. There's a.
I'll just answer with it depends. Go ahead.
I've been called worse. There's a particular phrasing here, which is regarding the city's community engagement component of Hate Free Together. So when I read that, I understand that to mean Hate Free Together has whatever components it has. One of them is community engagement, and that is the piece of the elephant that the HRC will touch.
Yes, in a nutshell,
But
yes.
the only part of it, it's the community engagement.
It is
specifically.
that's where you would take a lead.
Oh, I see.
And then there may be other things that come up as we evolve Hate Free Together, that you could be asked to do or assist with, but you would be, again, I look at it as the front door for somebody if they wanted to ring the bell and have a conversation.
Now, would that be, because there's also there's different aspects where communication and outreach is one of them, but there's also obviously different jurisdictions. So to what degree, would we just be doing this for directly city-related things?
Yeah, that's why it says regarding the city's community engagement, we don't pretend to try to
So there'll
speak
be
for.
other groups doing the community engagement for the campus.
UC Davis may have different structures that they set up,
The
DJSD, county, yeah. I forgot the county earlier, didn't I?
I see how it says one commissioner appointed to the campus council on community and diversity. Is that a thing we do right now?
That is Edgar, yes.
Perfect, okay. I figured that was something I just didn't know, but okay. All right, I got it, I see that now. Great, perfect. Let's keep that, seems good.
Kelly, if I may, I wanted to maybe harken back to the initial development of this. And I think at one point there had been a suggestion before council that the HRC might have, some scope with respect to the environmental justice component of the housing element. And I'm wondering if that is still under consideration or.
I'm actually glad you mentioned the whole general plan, cause I forgot to mention that. It was in the memo, but I didn't mention it, in my verbal comments. So that was the other thing that the council is very interested in looking at, as we do our general plan update, utilizing our commissions for, the community engagement piece, or one of the community engagement pieces for the general plan update. The general plan is divided into chapters called elements, and there are some elements that line up very nicely with specific commissions, and then there are other commissions that may have a piece or a portion of an element. So there is interest in the council about having the Human Relations Commission weigh in on the social justice, environmental justice pieces of the general plan, but there would also be, in the way that they're proposing to set things up, the Natural Resources Commission and the Tree Commission would merge into a Climate and Environmental Justice Commission. So that commission, by the power of its name, would likely take a lead role in that. But yes, there would be interest, or at least that's what council has indicated, in having all of the commissions weigh in on their relevant portions of the general plan update. I don't know if that answered your question, but.
Yeah, sounds like,
So
yes, in some.
Yes would have been a shorter version.
Maybe in some subsidiary, or in conjunction with other commissions that are under consideration. So I guess I want to just also check with you. I guess I understand that the council envisions reauthorizing the HRC with a new resolution. And I'm wondering if at any point that some draft of that is something the council will be able to share with the commission, or will you guys be doing that?
This is up on the screen right now would form the basis of it. So what they're considering doing, and we'll see what happens when the subcommittee brings all this back to the full council, considering having maybe one resolution that outlines for all commissions kind of the basic things that apply to all commissions, how you apply, what the terms of office are, those kinds of things. Not programmatic pieces, but really the structures. Then having an authorizing resolution for each commission that would include the information that whatever's finalized, like what you see up on the screen. Then what we'll need to figure out, because these are still very broad, commission to commission, year to year, different membership, you may have there may be different things that you're focusing on over the course of a year or a 2-year or a 3-year period even. So those kinds of specific details, which will be, for HRC would be very dependent on what's going on in the world, what's going on in Davis, what are the hot button issues. Those very specific things may be better dealt with in like a work plan, or something where you can get pretty specific and we're going to do this particular task. So the proposal is not to try to lay all of those out in an authorizing resolution, but rather to keep those as
high level.
Okay. Are there any questions, comments?
Yeah, so first of all, I do want to make sure we do have public comment before the item ends. But I did want to ask, so I definitely generally agree with the council's reasoning on like removing an interfaith ex officio, but we do currently have an interfaith ex officio, so I guess my question is, will they just kind of like no longer be an ex officio, and also when would that like officially occur?
So let me answer the last part, and then Carrie's had conversation with your current ex officio, and she can answer the first part. The proposal would be that things would happen July 1, our fiscal year. Council hasn't decided on all of that yet, so that could change and be earlier or later, but that's kind of our target right now.
And I did, thanks Kelly, I did reach out to our interfaith ex officio yesterday to let them know that this was a proposal so that they weren't caught off guard. Maybe it should be noted for people who haven't been on the commission for a terribly long time, but a number of years ago, there was a request to maybe change that from the current ex officio to have it be some other kind of ex officio instead of an interfaith one. And that wasn't changed at the time because of the language in the resolution. So I think they were okay. And as always, everybody is encouraged to apply to become a regular commissioner. And so that was also.
And she actually was the one who suggested it should be changed, right?
Yes,
So
yeah.
She realizes that she doesn't speak for all.
Yeah.
So it puts her in an awkward situation.
Yeah.
Okay, other thoughts, comments, questions for Kelly before we open up to public comment? Seeing none, I'll open the item up then for public comment. This is 6B. Mr. Hirsch.
Hi, Alan Hirsch. This is all very admirable. I think this is what needs to be done. And because this commission is a creature of the city, discrimination is an important thing. But I think the real core of what your real contribution can be is what we saw earlier this evening: the hate and the fear and the anger. And this group, this particular flyer here, this is a right-wing flyer. You should know this. There are two types of conflicts here. There's ignorance and there's hate out of ignorance. And that's what they need for education. But then there's how do we disagree politically? And I disagree with that. I may be wrong here. But how do we disagree productively? How do we hold our conflicts productively and still get along and still live in a community and don't feed here and faith? That's a real challenge. And I think that's the real essence of what your group needs to do. How do we train ourselves? How do we create norms in the community to we actively? And I don't see that here. That's in faith together. But I think you should call that out because that's really the challenge here. How do we get the people who are very sympathetic to the Palestinians and the people who are very threatened and feel like how do we get them to have in the same room and not feel like they have each other's throat? And don't cut down flags or put pork on windows and things like that. How do we do that? And I don't see this here, and that's what I think. Maybe there's an education program. Maybe you could catalyze the interfaith efforts. That's the real thing that I think is really missing, and that's really what we need next week. Desperately right now. How do we disagree more productively? Thank you.
Hi, thank you. If this body thinks it's going to promote human relations in the city of Davis, exactly as the gentleman said, you need to understand who your community is. You need to understand thoroughly who your community is. And we understand as members of the Jewish community that there's a perception of us, which isn't true, but it's still a perception of us. We're a bunch of white Europeans who came from Europe and sauntered down either in Israel or here. We stole the land from the Palestinians. A simple look at history will show that that's not true. It didn't happen. There are Jews who have been there without break for 3,300 years. There were 700,000 people, Arabs, who now identify as Palestinians, who were dispossessed from their homes in 1948. Most of them on the urging of the Arab leaders when they declared war on the new state of Israel. There were also 900,000 Jews who were dispossessed of their homes from all of the surrounding countries in the area, who were all absorbed by Israel. You had a population swap. The people of the state of Israel now, 7 million Jews and 2 million Arabs who are non-Jewish. The Jewish population is largely descended from all of the peoples surrounding the now state of Israel who were expelled from Israel, from Egypt, from Libya, from Algeria, from Syria, from Lebanon, from their undeniably centuries-old homes where they lived. And they are just as likely, most likely to be brown, some are black, some are white like me, and most of them are not European, because Churchill didn't let those Holocaust survivors in. The Holocaust survivors stayed under armed Allied guard for 2 years after the Holocaust because they had no place to go. The narrative is false. Yes, there were Arabs who lost their land, and they have been horribly treated over the last 100 years, 75 years. And whose fault is that? To place all the blame on Israel is not an accurate narrative. And I know it doesn't match progressive values of today, but it's not a true narrative. If you really want to understand and provide justice to the Palestinian people, what you need to do is have to understand how we got to today. And you need to understand what's going on there. And what American money went to funnel hate through UNRWA. And what Iran's role is in the Middle East in creating instability and violence for everybody, not just Jews. You need to understand why there were 500,000 Arabs slaughtered by Bashar al-Assad. This is just a little history lesson of the state of Israel, which is relevant because when you've got masses of mobs of people shouting from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea, let's cleanse the land, slaughter them all. They should all go back where they came from, wherever that is. Many of them were there to begin with. If I may.
Please.
And 2.2 million non-Jewish Arabs that you're going to slaughter them to October 7th style in a globalized intifada. And we hear that in our hometown with many of our progressive leaders standing up with them to say slaughter the Jews. You may as well say from the Pacific to the Atlantic, all 330 million Americans go back where they come from, wherever the heck that is, and we'll slaughter them in their place. If this commission wants to be relevant, it will understand that my perspective is different from the honoree of your award last week, is different from perhaps the rabbis in town, is different from many other people's. We are a diverse culture.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your comments. I'm going to ask you to wrap it up because we're over
I will
time.
wrap it up. This body has an important role in preventing and minimizing hate in Davis. Part of your role is to understand who's propagating the hate. There's outside forces that are coming into the city to do it. There are pro-Hamas, pro-terrorist forces that are infiltrating the campus to do it. And I hope you, and I hope the city council will take it seriously before we see the kind of nightmare that's going on in Columbia, USC, and other states around the country, and we have pure chaos and violence in this city. We need to respect each other, and we need to understand each other, and we need to learn about our community. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Okay. Seeing no further public comment, I think we are at a close on this item. I would just note that fostering mutual respect and understanding is, I think, part of the charge as both as the city has proposed to define it, or as the city's council subcommittee, and as the statute regarding HRCs describes it too. So I think the point that was made in public comment is, I think, reflected in our charge. All right, yes, thank you for that. All the work that the city council subcommittee has done, staff has done, and for the conversation here tonight. If there are no further comments, I'm ready to close this item, and we will move on to item 6C. This is the follow-up of the task force, or committee's report regarding commendation for the task force on reparations. Included in our materials tonight is a report that would accompany the proposed resolution, along with some reformatting of that resolution to track the city's format, and,
Just a suggestion, since looking at the time that it's 9:20.
right,
And we're about only at a 10 more minute mark potentially, and we have 3 more items to discuss. Should we discuss on how, if we wanna address all of them, or if we just wanna address 1 or 2 of them, or 1 of them?
I was hoping that this would be relatively expeditious.
Okay.
Since it was a follow-up to the conversation we already had, and now we've just got a report, and a slightly revised resolution, but if it's gonna be longer, I totally take your point.
I am ready to suggest that we accept this. We've all looked at it before, I mean, and
Okay, yeah.
certainly if anybody wants to discuss anything, but I was ready to wait a hot second and then propose that we vote to pass this resolution as a recommendation to the city council.
I will take that as a motion. It is debatable. But Connor has seconded, so it is up for debate at this point.
No debate.
Should we call for public comment first?
Yes.
Well, okay, it might be a moot point now, but nonetheless.
Yes. Let me do that. Connor, point well taken. I do want to allow for public comment, and seeing none. If there is no further debate or discussion, I would ask for a vote on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, none. Motion carries. Thank you all. And Edgar, I now want to kind of maybe take up the point that you were just raising, which is we do have only 10 more minutes. The hour is late. I don't want to rush things, but I also want to keep people past my bedtime.
Right. I don't know what D is going to entail. I can say with E, with having myself and Michael here, that can be very fast, which is an update from the last meeting.
Okay, well, why don't we move then to item E, and then if we have time, we'll take up D, if that is amenable.
Sure.
Okay.
Michael hosts the Campus Council on Community Diversity. I was able to listen in. The main meat of the discussion was next year's, and Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, the community book project.
Sure.
And the subject that they're going to do for 2024 is health equity and justice. And Megan presented, was it Megan, I believe, that presented on some of the topics and the books that were going to be covered for next year's plan, getting more feedback and suggestions about other topics. But other than that, is there anything else important that?
Sure, it's it's going to be the 35th year reaffirmation of the Principles of Community. The City of Davis has a version of Principles of Community, and perhaps part of the conversation related to the Hate-Free Davis Together would incorporate in terms of what that may look like in partnership with the university, since there was a time when our Principles of Community was adapted between university and also the City of Davis. So we just wanted to put that out there, and then certainly with Edgar being on the council, we'll have a lot of opportunity to discuss in terms of what potential role the city could play, the commission could play in the reaffirmation of the Principles of Community.
Yeah, if I might just comment, one of the ways in which I think the conversation around this table has been enriched is by a lot of the work that you in particular, Edgar, and others have done to invite folks from the university to educate us. For those of us who are not Aggies, I feel like I'm a friend of the Aggies, but I can't really claim to be, other than some short teaching assignments there. So I really value the kind of opportunity for dialogue that happens based on some of the.
Do you want to revitalize those speakers coming again?
I'll leave it to my colleagues, but I found it valuable to hear
Yeah.
things that I wouldn't otherwise know about, from the
Just,
administrative perspective, from the student perspective, from the programmatic perspective, because I'm not privy to those things.
Yeah, I can chat with Michael, we can see if there's some key speakers that can represent the university in different communities, as well as other groups that we can think of on our own to invite, just to do a quick presentation to the council, the commission again. That, I feel great. I mean, the few that we had, I think were very informative.
Yeah, I'm wondering, well, first of all, ask me. I've mentioned them before, but they are in contract negotiations now, and they're a union of like service workers and patient care workers, one of the lowest income like workers on campus, and also like largely POC and largely women. So there's a chance they'd be interested, though they sometimes are at capacity with other things. But I'm also thinking Speak, who we had someone, so Speak is an organization that advocates for undocumented students, and we were going to have a speaker from Speak at the Cesar Chavez event. So I'm wondering if they might be a good organization to bring in for the second week.
Well, that is kind of a natural segue to item D. And this is something that we won't have time to discuss, and we don't need to discuss. But this is on the agenda, my suggestion, because I would like us to be like in direct engagement with as many, sort of community groups, either us going to them or them coming to us, so that we don't stay in our bubble or our silo. They know that we're here. I have to tell you, I've only lived in this town for 10 years, but until I was appointed to the commission, I did not know there was a commission. And when I have told people I have a commission, they said, "What's the commission?"
And that's the most reaction of most people.
I would like that to be a slightly different reaction. I'd be like, "Oh, I've heard of you guys. You're either, doing great things, you're doing terrible things. I'd like to hear that too. But at least, awareness and engagement." And
HRC Roadshow.
Yeah,
HRC
right.
Roadshow. Or,
more work.
or invite people here. We can host, we can, And anyway, this is an item perhaps for further, I hope for further.
Let's table D and we can brainstorm more, because I think we could lay out some good plans. We only have 4 people right now, so maybe we get more people at the table.
I just wanted to take your temperature and see if
it could be
shoot that down.
It could be first year initiation to send them out into the public.
I'm very willing, and I have bandwidth, and I think it's super important, so I appreciate you bringing it up. This is tangential, but has the city done book reads like UC Davis does book reads? Would that potentially be something that could be, that the HRC could research and suggest, like on diplomatic discourse, or like, I don't know, but I just had the idea, and it would match with outreach too, because we would then presumably outreach for ideas for books and or people that we wanted to actively participate in a book read on something like civil discourse. I don't know, but idea that came to me.
Well, how much cross promotion is there the community book project with other?
There's quite a lot, and so I mean, if you want to go on, I mean, I think the question would be if you want to go on and identify your own book specifically for the city of Davis as a program, or you actively engage with the university as part of the campus community book project, because every year, of course, the book is different. There are different themes that are used to select the featured book. For 24-25, it is health equity. We are just, I have a meeting with the chancellor just to approve the featured book that will happen next week, but for 25-26. And I don't think and I think it's okay to say this, that the emerging theme is belonging. But the beauty about the book project is there are lots of different themes within a given book, and if there is something that's missing, for example, in the book that's selected, it can come up in the programming that supports the book. Civic discourse.
I participated in some of the hate in the homeland stuff, and it was great, and it would have been cool if this city was more like actively engaged. That would have been great timing for this year, but.
Yeah.
So if I can add a little bit to that, I think the beauty of the community book club project is that it's this idea that the community engages all together. And I know that the university has like a lot of events and speakers all related to that, but what I recall is that there were even like congregations that would also hold something and relate it to what the topic, so that the entire city was reading it. And so, and I really like that. I don't see that happening so much anymore as it did initially, but you know, I know that the Phoenix Coalition has also like thought about like, well, what's the book project so that we can maybe hold an event or a forum or something around that.
I mean, the best way to make sure that there's going to be partnership or collaboration or opportunities for cross promotion here is to join the program planning committee. And maybe that could be an offshoot of what Edgar's currently doing as part of CCC&D, to be a part of the program planning committee, which convenes in the summer.
Okay. I see Megan all the time.
Yeah.
Our kids go to school together.
I think it'd be if the book fit a little bit more what we're hearing that the city needs right now, it would be like a great partnership, and I feel like maybe for the belonging year, 25 years, it would be great for us to partner hard and like support city activities and discussions and things for kids that match that theme. It could be really cool.
The courses I help teach at UC Davis are on health equity.
I mean, that's a really important topic, don't get me wrong. It's just not what we're being called to immediately.
Right.
Maybe Hate Free Together could have a role in that too, as a unifying entity across all those jurisdictions.
Okay,
That's gonna be our last comment, because I don't wanna hear a motion to go after 9:30.
Okay, well, this might open a bunch of things. I just remembered though, it might be a question for Kelly. So speaking of health equity, I know that the council was considering creating a new commission that had a name very similar to that. So is that still a possibility? And also, would that be able to partner with the book project this coming year?
So the direction that the council gave us was not to create a new commission at this point, was to first to look and work with our county partners who have primary jurisdiction over a number of the health related issues first, and then kind of come back to them. So they may make another decision, but as of right now, we're not actively pursuing the creation of that commission.
Okay, thank you. In light of the hour and thoughtful conversation, I think we are ready to close. If there are no objections, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I actually have things that I want to say on the long range.
Well, I'm sorry, you're right. I think what we need is a motion to table item number 7 until our next gathering. Unless, I'm sorry, did you want to comment, Connor?
Yeah, so I think there are like scheduling questions, because I will likely not be able to make our regular meeting, like our regular meeting day in May. And then also, I did want to bring up, though it sounds like the council is already considering it, but having a trans sanctuary resolution in the city that's similar to the one that happened in Sacramento. It seems like this commission could potentially be involved in that, though the city's already pursuing it anyway. Maybe that's not necessary. I also did want to ask about venue, especially depending on what we anticipate future public attendance to be, because it would be nice to get a bigger room if we are anticipating a large number of members of the public at a given, like, meeting or just in general.
I did look into using the council chambers, and many times we are able to use it. There are some conflicts, especially if we tend to fall on a school board night. But we could look into moving in there most of the time, unless there is already a scheduled conflict in there, if that's of interest to you.
Yeah, I think we previously had some
Yeah.
discussion around it, and I think there is a general desire. It's hard to predict, obviously, what kind of public attendance we might have. But I think I'd prefer to be lonely than overcrowded.
All right, I will take a look at the calendar and let you guys know when those conflicts exist and when we can.
Yeah, I think if we had a sort of a general understanding that if we can, we would probably wish to.
I like this homey feeling.
I prefer to be
I don't.
overcrowded than lonely.
Spend too much time in there.
I know, it triggers you, right? In that room.
I don't know, strong opinion. It does sound like we need to reschedule our next meeting though, because we don't have a quorum without Connor, and Connor can't attend.
Well, and because of my schedule at UCD, I don't finish until 7 every Thursday until the end of the quarter,
So you have a new Thursday night conflict,
just for the quarter.
just for the quarter.
So it's just the
Just
May,
the main meeting.
just the May meeting, actually, sorry.
Okay, so we need to,
I'm going.
Go.
we need to reschedule the May meeting.
Should we do
I
that
tried to
now?
hang in there, but.
Thanks.
You need to be here for our rescheduling of our meeting.
Go ahead, Lynn.
We should probably just reschedule now, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I think we should. Of course, the other possibility is that we could potentially skip the main meeting. I feel like
That's supposed to be when Hate Free Together is coming, right?
Yeah, so, we can't have it on the 23rd because we won't have a quorum. So I would need to connect with Jenny and see what her availability is for May. I did let Kevin know that I am, the rest of my Thursdays are booked.
Thursdays are not ideal for Edgar right now anyway, are we pretty committed to Thursdays?
Until, unless we just meet at 7:30. But you can't do that May.
Well, not the 23rd, yeah.
Okay. So we're really just looking at rescheduling May.
Can we consider a different day of the week, or did people have conflicts other days of the week?
If it's in the evening, I'm relatively available.
I'm pretty flexible, weekday evenings.
How about the 22nd?
So you would check with Jenny, Tan, and then maybe get back with us.
Okay, how about the 21st?
Well, I can't do
We can't do
anything.
Tuesdays.
All right, done.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
So I'm gonna be gone for a few weeks.
You're gone for a few weeks. Okay. Connor, when do you leave out of town?
You want the
Like
X Factor.
midway, like mid-May,
Okay,
like maybe like the 15th or 16th or
okay,
possibly the 17th, possibly the 14th. It's not fully decided yet.
okay, so that leaves us the first week in May, but we've got the Win Awards on the 7th,
Yeah, no, that's.
and that's just in 2 weeks
Yeah,
as
we're-
well, so.
Alright, so maybe Kevin's idea is not so bad.
Well, I actually am not advocating for it. I think that we should try to be engaged in this work as much as we
The
can.
third,
And
I
I
should
think
be
we're
able to
already
do
gonna reach July, right? We're dark.
Connor, when are you back?
I should be back like the Wednesday or so after Memorial Day.
29th?
So I should be able to do like the 29th or the 30th. Or the 31st, but I assume people don't wanna do it Friday.
Not meeting on it.
Huh.
What about 30th at 7:30?
That's a Thursday, that works for you? No, it's 7, okay.
As long as it's at 7:30, yeah.
But does it work for Carrie? Cause you said your Thursdays were,
I have another work meeting until probably right around 7:30 that night, so.
Night's already shot.
I know, so I'm trying to decide how quickly I can, I've got a meeting in this room.
So just stay.
Okay, is the 29th, that Wednesday, an option for you?
Yeah, I could do the 29th, I could do the I don't mind doing the 30th, and, because I have a meeting right until, like I said, 7:30 in this room, so I could just then, we could just move into this one.
In general, if you're rescheduling a meeting for something like this, you would try to keep them on the same night, same day,
I was also
whatever.
gonna
Oh,
ask,
but
like,
Connor
what's the?
will be gone, so that won't work.
But trying to keep it on
Well,
Thursday.
Oh, he will be home, he will be back, you'll be
Yeah.
back on the 30th, Connor?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I'm getting confused.
Yeah, and I also want, like, if we did it on a Wednesday, would it need to be a special meeting? And if we did it on a Thursday, wouldn't it need to be a special meeting? Is that like
We
also?
stretch it a little bit,
Okay.
but.
Yeah, so I can do that Thursday at 7:30, I will just have to quickly wrap up the meeting, I'm in this room. I can't.
We'll be patient. We'll bring
We'll
it.
show up and glare at them.
We'll-
Friendly glaring.
And 7:30 works for folks. Okay, I'm hearing a consensus
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to.
May 30th.
Postponing it a week, basically.
for postponing it a week.
Pushing it back a week.
Carrie, Kelly, anybody else?
So I just need to check in with, I mean, we'll schedule it for the 30th, but I can't guarantee that Jenny's available, so I'll need to
Yes.
check in with her.
Right, exactly.
Well, yeah, that.
I won't be able to attend because I'll be out of state, but I mean, it's far more important for the members to be here. Just
Sorry.
to give you heads up. No,
And then the,
Oh, you're welcome. Fine.
Connor, thank you for raising that. I kind of overlooked that we had that scheduling problem, so thanks for bringing it up.
Michael, is there no CCC and D meeting in May?
last one's in June.
Okay, that's right, okay. And that's June 6th then. Well, that's a busy day.
Kelly and school board won't be meeting, they're the first and the third, right? So we should be okay on the 30th?
Well, it's the 5th Thursday, so generally it's a freebie.
Great. All right.
Okay.
Are we adjourning? If we're adjourning, I will stop the recording.
I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Second.